going to Scarborough Fair. Everything about her shines like the sun. She flies through the air like a dove. The garish circus lights shatter into prismatics off the sequins on her chest. When she smiles, her red lips part to call me. I see you, they say. Find me, they say. She's everything I have been looking for. I have to know everything about her. I watch as she tumbles and spins through the air. My heart leaps as I watch her fall before she nimbly and delicately catches herself on a hoop. It is like she is made of fire and air alone. The show comes to an end and I wait as everyone else files out of the tent. I stand by a small opening and watch her laugh and talk with the other performers. I feel a deep jealousy in my heart as I watch the men casually run fingers over her bare shoulders. She doesn't seem to respond in kind, though. Those fingers are waiting for mine. Rue, I hear them call her. Her red sequins and lips shine in my mind's eye. She is more than Rue. A sad little medicine plant is less than what she deserves. No, she is to be my Ruby, and everyone will see how she shines for me. Her peers do not understand her. They do not understand how precious she is. They do not deserve to touch her. This is when doubt starts to creep in. Has she dirtied herself already on these lesser men? Perhaps she is merely another circus harlot and I have fallen under her glittering spell. I am accustomed to method and patience in my line of work. I conclude I shall treat her much the same. A labor of love, but a labor nonetheless. The performers start to leave the tent as the sun finally sets below the horizon. The cluster of small caravans and tents set up around the back of the big top looks to me like a maze, but I spot her in the darkness, and I follow her like she is my red thread. I know it is meant to be when I sidle up to her tent and find a small break in the fabric. I can see the inside perfectly, as if she put the gap there just for me. I watch as she pulls on a simple white blouse and loose trousers. I have to look away as she takes a damp cloth to her face. I am enraged. How can she be so careless with her own beauty? I feel the anger and impatience sitting in my gut like tar. I have always been an impatient man at heart. I have learned to control it through years and years of practice. I have practiced myself. I will be a good teacher. To be my wife, she must hold the same standards I hold to her. Patience is important. She should be able to be calm and accepting when I cannot be. I watch as she curls up in her bed, and I wait until her breathing slows. Then, very slowly, I creep into her room. She is so close I could easily reach out and touch her. There I glance at the makeup that is strewn across her dressing table. I am vaguely familiar with the substances in the assorted small tins. I find a little pot that contains coal. I stand above her bed. She looks so peaceful and still here. Carefully, I smudge a little coal on the cuff of her blouse, and then I leave the tent otherwise undisturbed. Perhaps she will not know I have been there. In time, she will come to know, and in time she will be glad. The next morning, I am up as the sun rises and I wait by my tent. I have a perfect view of the beautiful little brook. As I expected, I see my Ruby not half an hour later. Clearly, she too understands the significance of the early hours. My mind wanders happily to the mornings we may spend together. She kneels down by the river and dips the blouse in. I watch as she scrubs carefully. She works diligently for 2 hours. I watch as she carefully repeats the same method over and over until the coal starts to disappear. The relief and satisfaction that washes over her face as she finally inspects the now clean blouse makes me smile. I quickly go back inside. I pull out my medicine trunk and open it on my bed. There should be a reward for passing a test. Something small as to not alert the people around her, but she will know. She will know it's from me. I pull out a small sprig of parsley. On the bed next to the trunk lies my next test. I almost cry from happiness when the last of the eyeliner is no longer visible on my shirt cuff. It was so incredibly careless in the first place. I bundle my wet shirt back into my arms and wander back to my tent to get ready. The brushes feel too rough on my now sensitive hand. My hands are fairly calloused as it is, but the scrubbing and the water have made them softer than usual, and they are already hurting a little. I am more than a little worried about tonight's performance. I could get some cream for my hands. I have time. The circus physician is notoriously hard to locate, and apparently today is no different. I almost think to myself that I could just go to a doctor who works at the fair, but the circus physician is trusted and has dealt with these kinds of problems before. He understands the needs and specifics of what I'm looking for. When I'm flying through the air, I would much rather put my life in his hands than those of a stranger. Eventually, I manage to pin the doctor down, and he is understanding and kind. I leave with a small pot of hand cream. I almost miss it when I get back to my tent. It is sat, carefully folded on my chair. It is a small brown package, and on top is a plant cutting. It's a herb, I know that, but I've never been much of a medicine woman. I place the pot of hand cream on my dresser and pick up the package. I slide the herb cutting into the ornate frame of my mirror. I turn the package over in my hands. It is light and it feels like material. I carefully remove the brown paper and unfold the garment inside. It looks like a nightgown. It's beautiful. There is lace around the neckline and the hem. It is delicate and it looks like it's perfectly in my size. Naturally, I am flattered, even if it isn't my usual style. I lay it on my bed gently. Maybe, if the nights remain as warm as the last week, I could wear it to bed tonight. I watch her unwrap the nightgown. She runs her fingers over the lace with an enchanting smile on her face. In the early morning light, she looks divine. She does not put it on, however. I am disappointed, but I understand. She has to go to the circus tent soon. I know they start rehearsing in only an hour, and their first show of the day is at midday. I calm the bubble of anger inside me. I can forgive her. I understand. All in its own time. I have duties to perform during the day, so I cannot be at her shows. I try to uphold patience with my patients, but with every person who walks in, I only see a blur of faces that call to nothing within me, and no trace of that magical red flame dancing painfully out of reach. But patience I require of her, and I must lead by example. After what feels like an eternity, the sun sets and the hustle and bustle of the fair dies down. I make my way to Ruby's tent. My gap in the canvas is still there. I hold my breath and look inside. I am just on time, it would seem. She is just pulling the last strap of the nightgown over her shoulder. The material clings to her body in exactly the right places and falls in exactly the right way. She is a vision in white. Her hair falls across her shoulders perfectly. She has her back to me, so I cannot see her face, but it doesn't matter. Again, I wait for her breathing to slow before I quietly slip into her tent. I stand over her sleeping form. Oh, she sleeps peacefully and beautifully. I reach into my breast pocket where a small clipping of sage rests. I take it out and I place it on the pillow beside her. She is halfway there now. Together we can travel the rest of the way. I am here to help her. Before my eyes blink open, I am met with the smell of sage by my face. I know the smell of sage. I've traveled with enough fortune tellers who use it to give ambiance to their tents. I see there is a small cutting on the pillow next to me. Before I can even consider how odd that is, though, I shiver. I guess it doesn't matter how beautiful this nightgown is. The cold English nights still win over. It had been nice for one night, but I probably won't wear it again. I wrap a shawl around my shoulders and start to get ready for another day. My last patient is at 4 o'clock. This is exciting because I can go to the Rubies' performance this evening. She has been wonderfully accepting of my challenges so far, and I am incredibly pleased. I have something especially special planned for her tonight. I hope she will forgive me for any anxiety it may cause, but I need to know that she is obedient. I know I am demanding, but good things are worth waiting for, and she will understand this. I need to know that she trusts me. I watch from the sidelines as she flickers through the air. She is just as shining and graceful as the day I first saw her. She glitters beautifully under the lights, and when she finally lands, she is met with thunderous applause. I slip away unseen. The last weeks of the fair have been blessedly dry, and the flame spins through the tent easily. Soon the audience is running and screaming from the doors. I pull open a flap at the back. The door is jammed with people, and I can see her standing in the middle, looking for another way out. I yell her name. Not my secret name for her, not with this many people present. She spots me and runs towards me. Suddenly, the material I had ripped away bursts into flames at my feet, and a wall of fire springs up between us. I tell her to jump, to trust me. She does. And then the smoke in her lungs slows her breathing and sinks her into unconsciousness in my arms. I wake up coughing, and then it all comes back to me. The smoke, the flames. I sit up in my bed and run my fingers through my hair. They get caught as I discover there's something in it. I sigh and untangle it. What I'm left with when I do so is another herb cutting. I stare at it for a second. Did the person who has been sending me these come to visit? I can't remember whose arms I had blindly jumped into yesterday. The smoke had been thick and the flames were blinding. I am used to secret admirers. It's kind of cute, I guess. And if it was them who'd pulled me from the flames, then I have a lot more than the tokens of their affections to thank them for. It will never go anywhere, of course. I have no intention of settling down. In a couple of weeks I will be back on the road and in a new town with new people. That is the life I have chosen, and it is my dearest love. At that moment, someone carefully pulls the door of my tent open. I explain to her carefully that the circus physician is unavailable and that I have been sent instead. She rolls her eyes slightly, saying that he was almost always unavailable. I laugh as I pull some of my medical instruments from my bag. I sit on the bed next to her. I explain what I am doing as I take her blood pressure and check her visual responses. She is receptive to my instruction. She trusts me. Perfect. Then there is just one test left. I have always been a modern man, but there are some things that can only be tested with the old methods. I look down at her, pitifully. I do not wish for it to come to this, but I cannot be certain in my love for her unless I go through with it. I must set through my own trepidations so that we can live happily. I can no longer think in the short term. I know she will never agree to this willingly. It doesn't matter how much she trusts me. I would not expect her to. She will understand, though. She will understand that I had to be certain. She will forgive me because she understands me. I pull out a small handkerchief. I tell her she must rest some more and that I have some smelling salts to help her. I place the handkerchief carefully over her nose and mouth, and in seconds her eyes roll back and she is limp next to me. I gently pluck her from her bed and carry her from the tent. When I wake up, I am cold and scared and my hands are bound to a rope. I flex my fingers to try and loosen it, but there is no give. My eyes try to follow the rope I am attached to, but my mind is hazy. Then some movement catches my eye. I try to focus. It looks like a man. That itself is enough to send a shock of panic through my spine. As my eyes slowly adjust, I can see the physician who had been sent to my tent. He is talking to me, but it takes me a minute to pick up the words he's saying. Sorry. You have to forgive me, my love. You understand, don't you? This is the final test. There are tears on my cheeks. I tell him I don't understand, and he just strokes my hair and tells me I will. He tells me he has to know that I am pure. I have no idea what that means, and I tell him such. He seems to be getting frustrated by my questions. Then something catches my eye. In his breast pocket there is a small herb cutting. Everything that has been hazy is suddenly terrifyingly clear. I try to shuffle backwards away from him, but it is then that I notice there is no ground behind me. I am not sat on the ground at all. I am sat on the side of a well, propped up like a puppet by the rope around my wrists. The physician comes closer to me. He cradles my face in one of his hands and wipes my tears away with the other. I hope your wings do not keep you afloat too well, my dove. And then, before I know what's happening, he pushes me backwards and winches me towards the dark water at the bottom of the well. I don't have time to scream before I am plunged into the cold. My lungs are still weak from the smoke, and I almost immediately inhale water. My body is screaming, but my voice is silent in the dark. I cannot feel the bottom. I stare above me and I can see a tiny circle of light. Okay. If this is a test, I intend to fail it. The rope is suspiciously still. I check my watch. She should still be fine. I checked her lung capacity before we left. A distinct sense of dread sits in the pit of my stomach as I frantically winch the rope back up. She has not floated. She has passed. We can finally be together. No more tests. No more hesitation. But as I pull her to the top of the well, she is still. I frantically pull her to the ground and undo her ropes. There is no breath in her lungs now, no life in her face. I brush her wet hair from her eyes. Her makeup is smudged and I begin to cry. I gently wipe the eyeliner from her lovely cheeks. Her lips are a startling shade of dusty blue and I kiss them carefully. They are so cold. Then I reach into my pocket where I've been keeping her lipstick and I carefully apply it. She looks so at peace like this. Quiet, patient, eyes closed, trusting. I let the emotion drain from me. I have to be careful now. She cannot be found like this. I would definitely get a malpractice suit against me, if not a murder charge. It is still early, and nobody is out early after the fire yesterday. We are once again alone in the early morning light. I scoop her into my arms and run back to my tent. I pull out my trunk and tip all the glass vials and pots out onto my bed. Carefully, I place her body inside the now empty trunk. I don't have time or resources with me right now to preserve her in any way. I just have to hope her body won't decompose too quickly. I fill the rest of the trunk with as many herbs as I can find. Then I take the sprig of thyme that I was saving for her success. I place it gently inside her mouth. It is hers, forever, as I am. I take one long last look at my sweetheart. Then I close the lid and I place the trunk back under my bed. I line the bottles carefully upon my bedside table and wash my face in a small basin of water. The fire at the fair is a scandal far greater than I had anticipated, and everyone is asked to start packing up and be gone in the next 3 days. I am grateful. It's a long journey back to my home, and I have to take that trunk into every inn I stay in. Every night I can hear her in my dreams. I am a man of science. I have never much gone in for the supernatural, but I can't shake the feeling that she is watching me. I asked too much. I asked too much. Are you going